This is Mr. Case, and we are talking about 22.2b. 22.2b. We saw the spread of Enlightenment ideas. It's kind of spiraling off of the scientific revolution. If it works in science, maybe it can work in the social sciences and foundations of government. And so the philosophy that we see is coming from the idea of the scientific revolution. And today we're going to talk about philosophes. Well, what's a philosophe? Well, it's the French word for philosopher. Philosopher, P-H-I-L-O-S-O-P-H-E-R, philosopher. The philosophes, well, at the core of their philosophy was reason or logic, nature, that's important, the idea of happiness, progress, and liberty or freedom. So these 5 things: reason, nature, happiness, progress, and liberty. That was their core beliefs, their core philosophy. Now, a French philosophe during the Age of Enlightenment was a dude by the name of Francois-Marie Arouet. He wrote under the pen name Voltaire. Voltaire was not his real name, but he was a French philosophe, and he was a satirist, S-A-T-I-R-I-S-T. A satirist is somebody who makes fun of institutions or people in their writing or their speech. And Voltaire would have been a great writer on Saturday Night Live. He never stopped fighting for tolerance, reason, freedom of religious belief, and freedom of speech. He fought for toleration, reason, freedom of religious belief, and freedom of speech. Now, make no mistake, Voltaire was not a Christian. In fact, he poked holes in Christianity. He made fun of that. He was more of the believer that religion was universal. So he's not going to make friends with the Roman Catholic Church, that's for sure. Another gentleman is the Baron de Montesquieu. He was a Frenchman. He was a French aristocrat or a nobleman and lawyer. He studied ancient Rome, the workings of ancient Rome, and he admired greatly Britain's government because they were more democratic than France was. Now, the takeaway for the Baron de Montesquieu was the idea of a government that had separation of powers. Well, what's that? It's a division of power in the government among 3 branches: executive, legislative, and judicial. Sound familiar? Well, yeah, we borrowed the ideas of Baron de Montesquieu for our government. He wrote a book called On the Spirit of Laws in 1748. And in it, he talked about each branch of the government could check the power of the other 2. In essence, power would be a check to power. So if one branch got too big for its britches, the other 2 would be able to keep it in check. And that was a good idea. And some of our American political thinkers like Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson read the writings of Montesquieu and obviously brought those ideas into our government. A Swiss philosophe by the name of Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He's a Swiss philosophe. He believed that the only good government was one that was freely formed by the people and guided by a direct democracy. He didn't like the idea of elected representatives, but the citizenry making the laws directly. In his book, The Social Contract, he explained his political philosophy. He explained his political philosophy as where Hobbes believed in that society was evil and we needed a strong government to keep it in check. Jean-Jacques Rousseau believed that people were free to form their government. Okay. The final gentleman we're going to be talking about today is Beccaria, Cesare Beccaria. He was an Italian, and he believed that laws existed to preserve social order, not to avenge crimes. It wasn't the goal of laws to avenge the criminal, but to preserve social order. In his book on crimes and punishments in 1764, he said that abuse, injustice existed, that the government didn't do a good job in taking care of crime. There was an abuse, injustice that existed, and he advocated no more torture, no more torture. The punishment must fit the crime. It must be fair, a just punishment. It must fit the crime. Trials need to be run fairly because they weren't run fairly. Trials weren't run fairly. The desire of speedy trials, and then he was a believer in no capital punishment. What's capital punishment? That means death, executing the criminals. So we begin to see a desire of these Philosophes to shape the government or shape society based on logic and reason, etc., etc. Well, this is Mr. K's, and this is 22.2b. I'm out.